I'm going to go ahead and get started and reintroduce myself, Kurt Witcher, manager of the Genealogy Center here at the Allen County Public Library. And it's so awesome to spend just a few moments with you on a midweek afternoon to talk about something that's pretty serious, I think. So, resharing my screen to kick off the PowerPoint presentation here, and I trust all of you can see that. What do I do with all of my stuff? I think we have jokingly talked about that for a long time. Sometimes we have kind of a perverse sense of humor with our joking, but I think it's real serious. And so let's get serious this afternoon. What do I do with all my stuff? Organizing to preserve and pass down. That really should be a primary driver for us. We put a lot of time and energy and work into our family history. Don't we want that to be kind of a living collection of documents for our family and for anyone else interested in the areas and the religions and the ethnic groups where we have conducted research? We want this to live on. So, how do we do that? What do we do? So, first and foremost, I think it helps for us to have just a general understanding of what we do is really important. And many of us might say, I just do genealogy as a hobby, as a casual thing. But what you're doing is you are finding and preserving, and through our organization, presenting stories. And stories are so powerful. What we do is really important on so many levels and in so many ways. And many of us have devoted years, not minutes, hours, days, but years to doing family history research, years to finding our stories. We need to make that count. We need it to live on for our families and for fellow researchers who are, again, intersecting our research with their own quest for family stories. Even though I just said we do big, important stuff, that what we do is really important, how we do it does not evidence that importance, and that does not serve us well. My colleagues can attest to the veracity of this statement. I can tell by the types and the quantity of donations that come into the Genealogy Center, donations of material, that we are not organizing well. And I'm so grateful that some family member, child or grandchild, nephew or niece, grandnephew or niece has rescued where I fear most genealogists who started in the 20th century, where most of their research is going, and that's to the landfill. And that's so very sad. And it doesn't benefit any of us for generations of research to be lost because we don't organize. So, how we do our research isn't serving us well. We're losing a whole lot. And I fear that when our children and grandchildren, nephews and nieces and grandnephews and nieces come to clean out the house after we passed on, or come to our storage locker, or go to our study, I fear this is all they see. They see old stuff, papers not really in order, computer files with odd, weird looking abbreviations and names, and no key, no read me first disk or file, no access to important information in cloud storage. So when someone is confronted with a visual like this, and they're missing the person who's passed, and they're trying to clean out the house, settle the estate, the quickest, easiest thing to do is to just throw all this away because it's not labeled. There's nothing that screams here, I'm important. Your loved one spent a lifetime collecting me. There's nothing here that says that. There's nothing here that screams that. It screams, sorry, I'm garbage that your loved one forgot to throw away. Can you throw me away for the person who's no longer here? And you may smile or laugh a little bit, but honestly, isn't that what that says? And offices like this, I think I showed this last year as well. This is what a lot of our descendants run into when they're trying to clean up and organize our space for us. So I would declare it a crisis. And I know with all the crises going on in the world, you might think that I'm being a little dramatic. I'm not. It's a different kind of crisis. But our lifetime's worth of work is at risk. And if you're okay with that, well, that's fine. But really, are you okay with that? We here in the Genealogy Center continue to see an aging out of the generation that was born at the United States bicentennial. So that generation and their immediate family, their children, typically have reverenced and taken care of data. But as we went into the 90s, into the 21st century, computers became much, much more readily available. They are pervasive throughout our society. We have cared so little about our electronic files as well as our paper files. I don't know what the relationship is there, and maybe there isn't one, but we see so much information that is being lost every day. Families continue to call us, email us, come in and talk to us about, oh my goodness, what am I going to do with all this stuff? I don't know what it means. Is there a book here? Are there 13 books here? How is it organized? How are these families related to each other? I have 7 file cabinets, 4 drawers each of family papers, and I don't know where to begin. Well, at that stage, without a tremendous investment of time, as in months of time, it's almost too late to begin. We, the living, who have these papers as a part of our family files, we're the ones that need to begin. We hear this all the time. Our virtual and born digital data is not being well tended either. I have heard more than a few people, let's just call it a disquietingly large number of people who have said, yeah, I had all my pictures, Kurt, were stored on my iPhone or stored in my iCloud, and something happened, it got wiped away, something unexpected, unexplainable happened. But hey, it doesn't really matter because I'll just, I can take more. We take approximately 1 trillion images on our smart devices every year. So heck, we're not at a loss for images. We can take all kinds of images. But are we at a loss for those specific images that may have been an ancestral place, a cemetery tombstone, something that may not be easy to recover or recoverable at all? I don't mean to guilt anyone, don't want anyone to feel really bad, but we've been at this, trying to sound the alarm for several generations now, and we're still really not committed to a solution. I think we need to be committed uh, to a solution. So here in the department, in the genealogy center, it's almost like laugh out loud kind of a joke. It certainly is an internal joke. We can tell how poorly organized a collection, a donation coming in is actually organized, how poorly it's actually organized by the donor, the grandchild, the grandniece, telling us, oh, but don't worry, it's all really well organized. It's all really well organized is the canary in the mine shaft, the red flag for no, really, it's not well organized at all. They just really want some place to put the material because they know somewhere in their heart and in their mind and in their soul that it's valuable, but they don't know how to unwind it. That's kind of sad. I know that it's not well organized when it's coming in Purina moist and meaty burger for our pets. That's kind of a clue to us here in the Genealogy Center. Not well organized at all. That you have placed folders in plastic tubs that we get at Myers or Menards or wherever our favorite discount store is, that doesn't make it well organized at all. Not even if we put letters on the outside or some general names. That's just a container. And speaking of containers, this kind of looks like a recent former president's bathroom, right? So yeah, putting papers in boxes and piling them up and then saying, "Oh, here's our well organized storage locker of stuff." That doesn't scream organization to me. Something as narrow and descriptive as genealogy on the box, that doesn't scream organized to me either. And so let's open up figuratively one of those boxes. And oh my goodness. So we have no spine labels, we have no cover labels on these notebooks, but never fear, never fear. We'll open one up and surely there will be a table of contents page or something that kind of helps us describe this, what you're looking at. And lo and behold, we open it up and no, there's stuff, for lack of a better term, in the front pocket. And we have a page straightener and no table of contents page. So, not helpful at all. And we get collections like this fairly regularly. And we're one of a few libraries that accept this type of quote, really well organized material, unquote. It's not serving us well because if people don't know about us, they won't send the material to us. And even if we do receive the material, we're not going to be able to organize it as well. And we're not even going to be able to devote the hundreds of hours to understanding and linking correctly and totally accurately all the data that's on the hard drive that's in these storage containers. Something that we as researchers need to do. So I have to ask this question and then we'll get into some specifics. And they're really basic. And that's what pains me perhaps the most. What we do could really be very basic and make a huge exponential difference in how well our material is organized and how well it's embraced by our children and grandchildren and how easily it can be shared. So, my question, so what are we really doing? Are we researchers or are we hunters and gatherers? I'm so pleased to meet that the legal, or pleased to point out that the legal genealogist Judy Russell used this exact same phrase when she was describing what I'm trying to articulate, that we really need to do a better job organizing and being historical detectives. Are we researchers or are we hunters and gatherers? I fear, and you don't have to self-identify, but I fear um, most of us are hunters and gatherers. We're on the hunt for fill in the blank, a census, a vital record, an image, tombstone. And we find it, we capture it, and we move on. We don't put it in a file that really says what it is. We don't have a printout. We don't have any paper, anything digital. We're just gathering. I'm going to propose to you, probably for the thousandth time in my career, that is not genealogy. That's just gathering stuff. That's okay. No judgment here. If you want to devote your life to gathering stuff, that's awesome. That's great. It's not going to serve your descendants. That's not going to serve other genealogists. And if that's your goal, if that's your intent, if that's what you want to do, well, you'll be looking down from heaven thinking, oh my gosh, I didn't do that. Are we doing research or are we collecting stuff? Um, I would propose to you that we're not leaving our collections in good order because we're not being our best selves. We're not doing our best work. So for the rest of the time we have, limited time we have this afternoon, I want to encourage us all to do our best work. And how can we do that? There are some really very simple things we can do. I really sincerely believe in life lived in the small places, and that applies here. I know some of you may be starting to roll your eyes a little bit, particularly if you looked at the handout, because you're not finding a lot of big, sophisticated, complicated filing systems and naming systems. Those big, complicated things are like eye candy. They're really attractive to us, and we have to have them because so and so endorsed them. I heard them here, or I went to the seminar, and this person said they're the best thing since sliced bread, or whatever the equivalent is. It has to work for you. If it's really cool and it's a shiny object and it doesn't work for you, you've just wasted your money. You bought yet another filing system. And if you're an office junkie like me, office supply junkie like me, yeah, I love to buy shiny things. And most times, unless they're a writing instrument, they really don't work for me. Sorry to admit that. So, some really basic, simple things we can do. If we do these, we will be leagues along the way, and you can apply the more sophisticated filing systems and organizing systems to it if you want to. But doing the basic, simple things will at least impose some organization on your material, and it will make it open to further, more complex organization if that's the way you want to do it. And we need to do these simple things now. It's not a put off till tomorrow. It's like, yeah, after I'm done with my next research trip or my next research project, I'll start organizing. Nope, 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 nope. Won't work. Human nature kind of works against that. So, what we need to do is we need to start it now, like today. First thing, keep it simple. Again, as I just articulated, we can have really elaborate naming conventions and really elaborate electronic filing schema. Keep it simple. You can grow into bigger and better. The more you have a foundational organization, the more your material is open to more sophisticated systems. But 17 U-Haul boxes full of folders, even if the folders largely unlabeled, are in some kind of alphabetical or numerical order, that's still not good enough. So after keeping it simple, this is a must. Write up your research. So you have a document. Let's call it the 1950 census. Let's call it a Revolutionary War pension file. Let's call it a deed record. What is that? If it goes with this family, maybe create a folder electronically or actual paper, put the document in the folder, and then have a synopsis or a table of contents or a summary attached to that folder or that actual folder that says, oh, here's the Gogol family. And in this file, I now have a deed record, a 1950 census, a Revolutionary War possibility, but I need to kind of work on that Revolutionary War possibility because it doesn't quite match. Write up your research. Remember the genealogical proof standard. I think I've mentioned it every Wednesday this month. That's not because I'm really into lots of standards, etc., but there's wisdom in following what the genealogical proof standard is supposed to be leading us toward. And writing up our research is one part of that. Look at highlighted number 3 and number 5 of the genealogical proof standard. The evidence that we have gathered is reliable and has been skillfully correlated and interpreted. We're not doing any of that skillful anything. No skillful correlating, no skillful interpreting. If we aren't like with the mindset of, I need to summarize this, I need to plug this into this particular family, this particular branch, this collateral line. So we're being called by the proof standard to skillfully correlate and interpret. And then number 5, I mention this a lot. The conclusion has been soundly researched and coherently written. We need to write up our research. Some people have literally gone their entire lives, 50 plus years, gathering genealogical, historical stuff, and they've not written up any of it. And they leave it to whoever stumbles upon their material after they're gone to figure out, oh, that's this family's collection of records. And over here is that family's collection of records. That's really a recipe for abandonment of those materials. Because as that early on slide said, for someone who's not familiar with doing research, not familiar with your research, it looks like those papers are begging to be recycled. And most times when things beg, we do pay attention to that. So organize your research and explain your organization in multiple places throughout your files, both physical files and virtual. So as we're beginning to have a simple organization, whether it's paper folders and or e-folders, we're trying to group things together and we're writing up the research. We're saying what family it is. We're grouping things in our computer folders, in our paper folders, and we're telling people how we're organizing it. All of my yellow folders are main families, and my green folders are married in families, tangent families, collateral families. Come up with whatever scheme you want to, but remember the first point, keep it simple. In your computer file naming, with computer naming, oh my gosh, how we can easily sort and organize files. Think about that. Over a glass of iced tea or Stephen Colbert or whatever you do to relax and unwind. Let your subconscious mind think about it. What's the easiest, most convenient way to electronically name these digital folders so that I can have ready, easy access to them and I can sort them? Give it just a little bit of thought. And then explain your organization and put that explanation, which should be updated frequently in multiple places, maybe in the front of every single file drawer or every single file box. Put it several places. Put README files on your computer. Read me first, README files. Explain your organization. Then have someone review your explanation for clarity. Of course, we think everything we write is just crystalline clear, right? I can't tell you how many times I've put down a document or a memo I've written, even non genealogical memos, and I come back to it a day or three later, and it's like, uh, this doesn't make any sense. I need to insert this. I need to take out that. I need to re explain this. The same thing happens with our own personal research. Have a genealogical buddy. Have someone who's really disinterested in your family, someone not a family member, can be really enlightening. I have had the opportunity, I call it a benefit, of having some of my writing in front of someone who's not a genealogist and not a family member, and it's very enlightening. Sometimes a little humiliating. Sometimes it might be a tiny little bruise on our ego, but it's really good to see is your explanation like worth anything? Let's take a look at some micro things we can do, right? So we want to keep it simple. We want to, come up with a way of organizing. We want to write up our research. Let's go just a little further down to the micro level. So what do I mean by that? So you have 25 notebooks. You have 25 physical notebooks, or in this case, 25 virtual notebooks. Who is going to look through, even browse through half of 25 notebooks? If you don't know exactly what you're looking for, today's researcher is not going to spend hours looking through 25 notebooks. That each notebook has an itemized in order table of contents page. Wow, now that's a whole different story. Someone's taking a little bit of time to say, these are the various families that are in this notebook. So you can scan this in OCR and you can actually search across the table of contents pages of all 25 of these notebooks. Doesn't that kind of make the notebooks jump to life and makes them much more discoverable? Attach an image of your ancestor chart or a printout of your ancestor chart if you have large paper files. Put this in front of every folder that has any name that you see on your screen. So if you have folders electronically that have documents in them that you haven't tied to your e-tree, or you have printed out so much that you have electronic and digital, make sure a copy of this ancestor chart or some other similar ancestor chart gets in the folder of every person that's on here, so that the minute someone opens up the folder, even if they're looking at Hattie Louise way out there on the right-hand side, they know how that Hattie folder relates to all these other folders. Immediately, there's some recognition and organization to it. There's some recognition. Oh, I know at least generally how this relates to everything else. We don't even do generally this basic thing with our electronic files or our paper files. If we have a lot of paper files, if we took the time to create the paper file, let's take the time to label the paper file. I like this not because it's a paper file, because I'm still not sure I would devote a whole lot of time looking through it, but they have labeled every single file and then put key families and relationships and an owner, quote unquote owner, on the front of the file. So again, I have context. I have a little more than just papers begging to be recycled. Other basics, mini narratives for our e-folders or regular folders. Include generous copies of your keyed family history data, those synopses that you write up. Don't leave it to someone else to do all this work for you. Really, really important. Periodically, as I just mentioned, ask a family member or a genie buddy if your organization makes sense, if your filing and archiving system makes sense. And again, it's fun to ask someone who doesn't think like you. We get some wonderful perspectives on those who don't think like us. Scanning photographs. We actually had a question come in before this session this afternoon asking if we could talk a little bit about scanning photographs. We could do a whole hour and a half on scanning photographs, but basically, if you're just scanning a photograph and then saying, yep, yay, I have an electronic copy of this, excuse me, you're only halfway done. You haven't attached any metadata to that photograph, and that's a problem. So one, we do need to pay attention to scanning photographs. Most of us have exponentially more photographs unidentified than we do identified photographs. We may know who the people are, but maybe none of our children, grandchildren, etc., know who they are. So what kind of scanner should you get? basic that you're comfortable using. I know there's all kinds of opinions. There's probably more than 100 opinions on this particular program about what kind of scanner should I get. Get one that you're comfortable with. Get one that doesn't lock you into auto modes. Sometimes scanners, office companies, scanner companies think it's awesome if they can get the scanner to think for you. As flawed as my thinking is, I don't want any computer to think for me. I want the option of using its intelligence, but I want to be able to take it out of that mode. Scan at least 300 DPI or PPI, dots per inch, pixels per inch. You need the ability to save as JPEGs and TIFFs. We could talk a lot more about that. And make metadata creation a part of scanning. Metadata is just a fancy word for who's in the photograph, what's in the photograph, when was it taken, why was it taken. We have some amazing opportunities here in the 21st century to do some awesome things with metadata. So I'm going to offer to you that VividPix, which is a partner with the Allen County Public Library, is a place to look for a scanner. They have some top-down, what you might call planetary scanners, some really nice Fujitsu cameras, maybe a little more than some people are used to spending. It's not a $59 knockoff from Office Depot, but then it does more than a $59 knockoff from Office Depot. So go to their website, Google it, VividPix. Till then, or until we next meet online, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon, and good luck in finishing strong the 2023 Family History Month. Take care.